welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Erica. Thank you so much for clicking on my video. I would love to have you subscribe, like, comment, and if you're returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. So I've been seeing a couple different videos floating around on this platform recently, and the first one is a creator hypothetically choosing 10 palettes out of their entire collection to keep. And I really wanted to do that, but if you guys have seen my palette collection and declutter videos, you might understand my struggle. I have so many eyeshadow palettes, and I thought, how in the world could I choose only 10 palettes? But you know, I really wanted to challenge myself. And I also saw another video that was floating around this platform, and it's the creator choosing one palette from each brand that they own. Now I thought, yeah, that would be a little bit more doable, but there's several brands that I only have one palette from. Like for instance, I only have one Kaleidos Cosmetics palette, it's the Club Nebula. And I only have one Odin's Eye palette, the Giant Wolves palette. I only have one Colored Rain palette, the Safari Rain. And I only have one Glam Light palette, the Michaela palette. And there's a few other brands that I only have like one or two palettes from. So I thought, well, that would be maybe a little bit too easy. Those are kind of like gimmies. So I thought, what if I combine these two video ideas? So what I did was I looked through my collection and I chose 10 brands that I have the most palettes from. And then I chose one palette from each of those brands so that I would only have 10 palettes at the end of the day. Now, I had to remind myself, I don't know how many times, that this is not real. It's hypothetical. It's the what ifs. But in my heart, it's like choosing between my children, like which one do I love the most? And I love both my children equally, and I don't love all of my palettes equally, but it's still not an easy choice to only come up with 10 palettes out of your entire collection. So I thought if I grab brands that I had the most palettes from, it might make it easier, but also challenging at the same time, because that's kind of what I wanted, was the challenge. Now, my idea behind this was to really think about my collection and what I would keep out of the palettes that I have in terms of color story, in terms of quality, formula, textures, that sort of thing. So I wanted this to make sense. I wanted to have 10 palettes that when this was all said and done, I would be happy with and not feel a longing for my other palettes. Now that would be impossible. But again, this is just what if. This isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't real. Sorry. So I'm going to start off with the brand that was easiest for me to choose the palette from. And then as we go down the line, it's going to get a lot harder. Now, if you're familiar with my collection and declutter videos, you might realize that I have a ton of BH Cosmetics palettes and ColourPop palettes. And I had to choose one out of all of those. So I'm going to start off with Morphe. Now, I know that not everybody likes Morphe, and I understand why. They're not my favorite brand either. When I first got into makeup, I really liked their palettes because I felt like they had a lot of different color stories and they were affordable. And Morphe has sales all the time. And I haven't bought myself a Morphe palette in quite a while, but full disclosure here, total honesty, I almost bought the Lucky Charms palette. Ugh, that is so cute. I love Lucky Charms cereal. I know it's like basically sticking a spoon into a bag of sugar and eating it. But every once in a while, I will purchase a box of Lucky Charms cereal, and I don't let anybody touch it. I eat the whole thing all by myself, sometimes in one sitting. But I stopped myself from buying that palette because I felt like I didn't need it. It's a little overkill. So what Morphe palette did I choose to keep for my 10 palettes? And this is the Morphe Such a Gem palette. And this baby is enormous. But this is absolutely gorgeous. It's stunning. And it's the perfect purple palette, I believe. I mean, yes, I do have other purple palettes in my collection that I love, maybe more than this one. But if you're talking about only keeping 10 palettes and you want a purple color story, how can you go wrong with this one? It's gorgeous. It has beautiful mattes and shimmers. It's got dark purples, light purples, pinks, some neutral options. And then this row here right in the center, these are topper shimmers, and they're called, I think, like silk toppers or silk shadows or silk shimmers, something with silk in the title. I do remember that. And they're lovely. Now, they are toppers, but they can stand alone. You can put these alone on your lid, like as the shimmer shade, and they're gorgeous. And I really like the quality and the performance of this palette. Now, I have not used this in a long time, but looking at it now, I think I really am going to be getting this out and playing with it soon. So I just felt like if I wanted a purple color story, which I have to have one because I love purple shadows, this would be the perfect palette to satisfy that need in my collection. Now the next brand is Profusion, and I have several of their $5 monochromatic type palettes. And I looked through those and it took me quite a while to figure out what I wanted to choose for my 10 palettes. But I finally came up with the rubies. Now this is a gorgeous red color story. And again, $5. I know I say that in every video where I talk about these palettes, but it just blows my mind that they're only $5 because they work so well. And granted, this isn't like, I don't know that this is a truly red color story. I mean, I think the real reds in this palette are this shade here and this shade here. These ones are more maybe like kind of burgundy or brick red. But out of the Profusion palettes that I had, I don't know, this one just really kind of spoke to my heart. I just really wanted a nice red color story, and I felt like this would do a pretty darn good job of filling that need in my collection. Now, I almost chose the Sapphires palette. That's the blue color story. Like there's mostly blues and a couple neutrals. But if I'm honest, if I'm only going to keep 10 palettes, blue eyeshadows are not my favorite. So I felt like that would be kind of silly to keep a palette that I didn't just absolutely love. So yes, I chose the rubies. I'm very happy with my selection, and this is a gorgeous palette, and it's $5. The next brand is Wet n Wild, and I do have several Wet n Wild palettes, so this was not necessarily an easy decision. But after looking at everything, I finally settled on one, and that is the Call Me Sunshine palette. And I think this is such a nice yellow, mustard, brownish, goldish color story, and I really wanted one of those in my collection if I'm going to only keep 10 palettes. And this, I think, is a very good dupe for the Urban Decay Naked Honey palette, which I also have. But that's the only palette that I have from Urban Decay. So I kind of felt like that was a gimme. That was another reason why I wanted to combine these two video ideas together. This is gorgeous. It's so affordable. It works so well. This shimmer right here, this gold shimmer, is beautiful. And I don't know, I just felt like out of all the Wet n Wild palettes I had, this one would make me the happiest if I was only able to keep this one. The next brand is You Can Be, and I have several You Can Be palettes, so this also was not easy, but it wasn't as hard as some of the other palettes I'm going to show you. I wanted a really nice rainbow palette, so I chose the Fruit Pie Filling palette from this brand, and I don't hear anybody talking about this brand on YouTube at all. But I really like their palettes. They're very nice quality and they're very affordable. The mattes are very nice. They blend out beautifully, and the shimmers are gorgeous. This one here is lovely. It's kind of like a blue to purple flip. And so I felt like it had some really nice rainbow tones in here. I realize it's got more pinks and reds and maybe like magentas than like blues and greens. And so maybe I'm kind of duping myself a little bit with the Rubies palette with this one, but not exactly, because I do feel like this has more of a pink or orange edge to it. And I do really like this row of shades down here. We got some, you know, blues and greens and maybe a little bit of grunge. But I really like this palette, and I really wish I could see more people on YouTube talking about this and using this on their channel. And I just felt like this was the perfect rainbow color story for me to keep. The next brand is Cara Beauty. I have a handful of Cara Beauty palettes. The majority of them I have gotten from TJ Maxx, and I know back when TJ Maxx, everybody say it together, had good makeup. I know I've said that so many times on my channel, but I chose the Life of the Fiesta palette. And the reason why, well, there's a couple reasons why, but the main reason why is because it has 3 pressed glitters, here, here, and here. Now, I love the Cara Beauty pressed glitter formula. It's so nice. It goes on so easily and it comes off easily. It doesn't get all over your face. It doesn't get into your eye. You don't have to pick glitter off your face for 3 days after you use one of these shades. And I really do like this color story. And this one, to me, this had more of the grunge to it, like the greens, greenish blues. So I felt like I was getting more out of this palette that I was lacking maybe in the rainbow palette that I chose from You Can Be, the Fruit Pie Filling. That's got more of the reds, pinks, and oranges. And then this one has more of the greens and kind of greenish blues and some neutral options as well. A couple purples too. I love this palette. It's gorgeous. And like I said, I really wanted to have some pressed glitters, some fun pressed glitters in my life. So this is the palette that I chose from Cara Beauty. Now we are at the 6th palette. And this is where things got very difficult for me because these brands I have a ton of palettes from, and it just took me a really long time to figure this out. It's like I was trying to buy a brand new car or something. The next brand is Makeup Revolution. Now this includes I Heart Revolution, XX Revolution, Revolution Pro, Makeup Obsession, anything that Makeup Revolution is the umbrella of. I got all of those palettes out. I looked at all of them. And this is the one that I chose. This is the Forever Flawless Decadent palette. Now, why did I choose this one? Because it has this beautiful fiery orange corally color story. And I really wanted to have something like that in my collection. And this shade right here, this white shimmer, is so gorgeous. It's so beautiful. I love using it. It's good as a topper shade. It's good by itself. It's good as a brown bone highlight. It's good as an inner corner highlight. And I really like the formula. I would like to get some more of these Forever Flawless palettes because I just think they have such nice quality and such a nice formula. The shimmers and the mattes and the satins, everything works so well. And I really like the packaging of these too. I think this would be really nice to travel with. Someday when I go to the UK and see my Steffi Poo, I might take this palette. You never know. So yes, this is the palette that I would keep for Makeup Revolution. The next brand is Nomad Cosmetics. Ugh, this was so hard for me to choose a palette from this brand because I have, I don't know, 6 or 7 palettes, I guess, from Nomad, and I love all of them. The Berlin Underground is probably in my top, well, not probably, it is in my top 3 palettes that I have in my collection. And I did not choose that one. I also have the America's Parks palette. I love it. It's stunning. I didn't choose that one. And I also have the Canada Whistler Snow Lodge palette. I think that's the title of that palette. And I have not used that one yet. So I kind of felt like, how can you choose a palette that you haven't used yet? I promise, after I heal from my surgery, I will be filming with that baby because it's gorgeous. And then I have a few other Nomad Cosmetics palettes. But as I was looking at all of them spread out on the floor, I kept going to one palette because I really decided I had to have a beautiful pastel palette in my 10 palette collection. And this is the Nomad Tokyo Harajuku palette. And I'm telling you, if you don't own this palette, you have no idea how life-alteringly amazing these shimmers are. This row down here, oh, they are so beautiful. And every time I look at this, I want to use it, but then there's a part of me that doesn't want to use it because I just want to keep it like this forever. I want to keep these shades in this palette for the rest of my life. And how dumb is that? Duh. So I really do want to get this palette out and use it. It's springtime. This is the perfect time to use this palette. This row of satins here, gorgeous. And this row of mattes is lovely. I mean, you can't ask for a better pastel palette, in my opinion. This shade here is really fun to have too because it does offer a deepening option. I think that's why a lot of people shy away from pastel palettes, is because they don't really have any way of deepening their look unless they want to grab something else. And a lot of people don't like to do that. But I'm telling you, this is a stunning, beautiful pastel palette. And there was just no way that I could pass this up if I'm only going to keep 10 palettes out of my collection. We're down to the final 3. Oh boy, like my stomach's starting to churn. It's crazy. They're eyeshadow palettes. The next brand is Juvia's Place. Yeah, I said it. Juvia's Place. I have so many Juvia's Place palettes and I love all of them. They are all phenomenal. They have a very special place in my makeup loving heart. And I narrowed it down to 2 palettes, and I did choose one out of the 2. But the 2 that I narrowed it down to were the Nomad and the Nubian 3 Coral. Now, both of those palettes are very beautiful in my eyes, and it took me way longer, I'm not even going to admit how long it took me to pick one out of those 2 palettes. And I chose the Nomad because this is my favorite Juvia's Place palette. I had to choose it. I love grungy color stories, and I realize I do already have some of these shades in the other palettes that I've chosen. I know that, but there's no way I could live without this palette. I really don't think I could. I know that sounds very dramatic, but I'm serious. Like, I love this so much. And I do love the Nubian 3 Coral too, and I don't have anything else like that in my collection. I mean, the silvers and the corals together, I don't have that. And I'm kind of kicking myself for not choosing it. But again, this isn't real. I need to calm down. But I just had to keep this palette. I had to. I love the grunginess. I love the color story. I love the formula. So yeah, out of all of my Juvia's Place palettes, I chose the Nomad to keep for my 10 palette collection. Now we're down to the last 2 brands, BH Cosmetics and ColourPop. And I have a ton from both brands, a ton of palettes. So this was very, very difficult. And I'm gonna start off with BH Cosmetics. I laid out all of my BH Cosmetics palettes on the floor, and I just kind of went with my gut. And really, with this palette selection, I just went with my preferences and what I really love the most out of eyeshadows. And I chose the BH Cosmetics Sweet Shop Pistachio palette. And this was hard because I have a lot of these Sweet Shop palettes, and they're all amazing. I still have not used the Bubblegum palette. But I love green eyeshadows the best out of any eyeshadow color. And this is, well, I have a couple of green palettes, but this is my favorite. It's my favorite. And I thought, how in the world are you going to turn your back on the Sweet Shop Pistachio palette? You can't. So that's why I chose this. I love green shadows. I love the formula of this palette. It is so beautiful, the shimmers and the mattes. And I just thought, yeah, there's no way I could not choose this palette. And I'm thrilled with it. I am going to miss the Naughty palette. I am going to miss the Orange Sorbet. I'm going to miss the Cotton Candy. I'm going to miss my Zodiac palettes. This isn't real. Now, ColourPop. I have so many ColourPop palettes. I have a ton of the 9-pan monochromatic palettes. I have several of the medium-sized palettes, and I have a few of their larger palettes as well. So what I did in order to pick a ColourPop palette was I laid out the 9 palettes that I'd already chosen, and I just looked at what I was lacking. What was I missing in the 9 palettes? And what I was missing was a cool-toned eyeshadow palette. So I chose the Stone Cold Fox. Yes, I did. And some of you are probably thinking, oh my God, are you kidding? Like, out of all of those ColourPop palettes, this is what you chose? Yeah, this is what I chose. And I'm very happy with my selection because this is my favorite ColourPop palette. There, I said it, it is. And I know to a lot of you, this is so boring, neutral, let's take a nap. But I'm telling you, the formula of this palette is gorgeous. The shades are gorgeous. Everything goes together. And yes, I know there's some repeating shades. I understand that. But the love that I have for this palette is out of this world. It really is. My cup runneth over. So I just could not pass this up. And I do love the Kathleen Lights Dream Street. I love the So Jaded. I love the It's My Pleasure. Baby Got Peach. I mean, I have so many beautiful ColourPop palettes that I just love and adore so much. But I'm sticking with this one. I love it. It's gorgeous. And I have to have a really good cool toned eyeshadow palette if I were to only keep 10 palettes. So yes, this one is the one, the winner from ColourPop. I cannot believe that I was able to actually choose only 10 palettes from the brands that I have the most palettes from. This was really fun. It was really hard, but it was really fun. And I think if I look at all 10 palettes that I chose, I think I did a pretty decent job of like making a really nice curated palette collection. You know, I have the purples, the greens, the cool tones, the yellows, the reds, the oranges, the pressed glitters, not a whole lot of blues. I do kind of think maybe I should have chosen an all blue color story, but I don't know. I don't think that I would have pulled that out a whole bunch and used it if I only had the 10 palettes to choose from. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I would have. I don't know. And like I said, the bottom line is none of this is really happening. None of this is real, but it's fun to pretend. It's fun to do some what-if-sies for laughsies and jokesies, nosies. I'm dunsies. But I hope you guys really like the palettes that I chose. And I would love to hear what you thought of the palettes that I chose. If you thought maybe I should have chosen differently. And I would love to hear what 10 palettes you would choose from the brands that you have the most palettes from. It's so much fun to talk about that stuff in the comments section. I love to do that. So please let me know what you think of what I chose and let me know what you would choose too. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your busy day or evening to sit down and watch my video. It always means the world to me. If you have subscribed, you would like to subscribe, do not forget to hit the notification bell. That way you're aware of all of my future uploads. I cannot wait to see you guys again in my next video, but in the meantime, please take care of yourself, be well, safe, happy, and I cannot wait to see you guys again very soon. Thanks again, you guys. Take care. Bye.